Okay. Hey guys, welcome to the YouTube channel of Chaincatcher Daily Unencrypted. Today we have invited Kye Gomez, a star entrepreneur in the AI field and the founder of Swarm. So first of all, Kye, can you please briefly introduce yourself and Swarms, and especially highlight its mission enabling multi-agent LLM collaboration for complex business solutions?
Yeah, absolutely. So hello, everyone. My name is Kye. I've been an AI researcher now for almost 9 years, if not more. I previously led an open source research lab called Agora, and we're kind of like the American DeepSeek. We basically open source models and made them open source, and we just trained the models. And at Agora, we initially created the first agent framework ever, which was Swarms. We started building it like 3 years ago with the intention of enabling enterprises and startups to build these multi-agent systems, which are much better than individual agent systems. And multi-agent collaboration is superior for most like enterprise deployments because there's three really big problems. The first one is that all LLMs like ChatGPT, DeepSeek, all these different models have like a memory limit. So that memory limit is very defined. And if you give too much memory to language models, they'll start to forget things in the middle and towards the end. But if you have multiple agents, you can you could chunk it and you could have batches of agents that process a specific amount of information. And thus, if you do this, now you can process more information, and the output accuracy will also be much better. Another really big problem that Swarm solves is the ability to enable agents to do many things at one time. So before, previously, agents and LLMs could only do one thing at a time. Like when you use ChatGPT, it's only doing one thing at a time, and that's not really useful for companies. If a company is going to adopt AI, why would they only adopt one AI? Why wouldn't they adopt multiple AIs and start automating more and more complex operations? And that's kind of like solving these problems are the main purpose as to why Swarms exist. We exist to provide enterprise-grade infrastructure to companies that might want to use agents and integrate agents into their companies. And our inevitable vision is that if multi-agent collaboration gets good enough to a point, we'll start seeing like fully autonomous companies. It might be possible that every company on the planet might become fully autonomous, and making that happen is our mission.
Wow, that's an amazing start. So you just mentioned that you work on projects like Agora before Swarm. So how did those experience shape your approach to the multiple agent systems?
Yeah, so what we did at Agora was we originally started off by implementing AI research papers. So if let's say a research lab like Stanford or a company like DeepMind, Google DeepMind, let's say they implemented a paper. They had a research paper, but they didn't have any code. So we would implement these papers and put them on GitHub so people could use them. Whereas before, they were just a research paper. There was no code or anything. And what happened is that after we started like implementing all these research papers, like the first papers on agents ever, these papers were like, they would show like some ability of agents to do things in the real world. And we discovered that if we could fix those problems I mentioned earlier, the memory problem and enabling the agents to do many things at once, this could economically be viable for companies to implement. Because 4 years ago, LLMs were not ready to be used by companies. And over time, over these past 4 years, we started to change that and started to make agents much more easier for enterprises to adopt. And there was a couple of papers on the way that are really important to understanding how agents basically started. The first one was this paper called Chain of Thoughts paper. And the idea in this paper is that if you have an agent, it's like, when a human talks to yourself, you will go in a loop, right? Like you go in a loop. You say like this idea, like if 2 + 2 = 4, then you start adding on top of that. So it's like a loop. And so this was like the first paper ever that got agents to basically loop within its mind so that it could have like a conversation within its mind and be able to start doing things autonomously. This was kind of like the paper that started agents. But when this paper came out, there was no code for this. It was just a research paper. And so we implemented that paper when we put it on GitHub. And that was kind of like one of the first implementations of agents ever. Another really good paper that kind of demonstrated how good agentic systems could possibly be in the future was this paper called Tree of Thoughts. And this paper is the same idea as the Chain of Thoughts paper, but Tree of Thoughts is much more complex because it tries to simulate kind of like a forest. And so it's like Chain of Thoughts paper, but you have multiple chains of thoughts running at the same time. And that way it's like one agent knows what the other agent's doing, and the other agent is just going in a loop within itself until it finds a specific answer. And so that paper was kind of like the beginning of this new era in agents where the agents could actually be useful for companies and for businesses.
Yes, indeed. It's 4 years, 4 years before, there's nothing about LLM, or we can say the LLM is not that mature. So this, the problem is the things goes too fast. Sometimes you just post on papers, and sometimes you have to develop codes. But for most of the people, they only need to use something like agent, this very convenient tools for them to solve the problems in the work, right? So you just mentioned that things have happened in the past 4 years, and what sparked the idea for Swarms in this year, 2025, and were there specific pain points in AI collaboration that you aim to solve?
Yeah, so Swarms didn't launch this year. We actually launched, we started building the framework almost 4 years ago. The company officially started in February of last year. So February 2024 is when we were like, all right, let's actually start a company out of this framework. We think this could, be a good business. The reason we launched our token in December because we thought it'd be a good way of enabling the global markets to be more accepting of agents. For example, if you live in places like Hong Kong or Asia or Singapore, access to LLMs like ChatGPT and Anthropic are limited. So you cannot use these models, and people from these nations cannot pay for agents. So we are like, okay, what if we can make this more global? What if we can have a global agent payment mechanism? And that's kind of the reason why we launched the coin. The reason why we launched it was to enable companies around the world to get agents more easily using a currency that does not have the same limitations as the American banking system, which is typically very hard to access with if you're not from America. So if you're not from America, you can't pay for ChatGPT or Anthropic or any of these things. And so, but by having a coin based on Solana, we think it could be much faster than the traditional American banking system, and it's also more global. Anybody around the world can pay for agents now using the Swarms token, and that's why we launched the token.
Yes, it's quite good. It's quite good. We can just simply use the token to make payments, and for people in maybe Singapore, Singapore is okay. I think it's, for example, like other places, we have to switch to Visa or MasterCard. But for most of you, like payments method like Visa or MasterCard, so we can just use the token, use the Swarms token. It's quite good. Yeah. So as we all know, the Swarm is used in industries like finance and healthcare. So can you talk us through a typical day in the life of a Swarms power system? For example, how might it streamline a financial institution's compliance process?
Yeah, absolutely. So as of right now, Swarms is used by engineers in almost every single industry, from finance to healthcare to insurance to agriculture to manufacturing to logistics. We're not just bounded by Web3 or DeFi. We have users in every single industry. And compliance is very interesting because if let's say like if a large bank is having to start to like want to integrate like new forms of banking services, they would typically have an entire team of people that would cross-reference potential compliance conflictions. And so what a team could do is they could have basically a team of compliance agents that can do a bunch of research, look at the SEC's guidelines, and they could even reach out to SEC representatives and get their feedback on a new feature or program a bank might want to implement. For example, the Solana ETF in America. All this type of like compliance work can be automated by agents, and you can also automate kind of like the verification process with external representatives.
Yeah.
Another type of like compliance level agents, which is a little bit more technical, but for like Web3 DeFi projects, you could have agents that verify smart contracts or code, like one of our partners, Chainfox, is doing. They have agents that can analyze a code base and see if there's any, potentially misleading or dangerous code. And they could also, help fit the guidelines of projects within the respective countries, any country in the world. So, yeah.
Even
What was that?
even Russia.
Yeah, precisely. So, I think agents are going to be doing most of the compliance work for every industry. Finance, insurance, healthcare, DeFi. Agents are perfectly capable of doing this type of work any country in the world. There's no like set limitation that would limit an agent's capacity to understand compliance laws in a particular industry or geographical location.
Yeah, that's quite good. So use the agent, you can easily to approach like something like a compliance supplier or like customer service.
Yeah, precisely. Even the CEO of Goldman Sachs, David Solomon, has said that they're currently using agents to create IPO prospectus letters, and that kind of like marks the beginning of like agents starting to enter in traditional finance and starting to just automate the whole process. Because the traditional financial system, it is, I would say, it's pretty large, but it's nowhere near as efficient as it could be. I think the market's efficiency theory is completely incorrect because humans by nature are not efficient. So how could a market be efficient if the agents or the actors within that economy are inefficient? But I think AI can make a market truly efficient.
Yeah, this is the efficient problem. Let me think about the financial institutions like Goldman Sachs. They probably need the agents for the process of IPOs, SEC filings, using their own tailor-made agents. Probably they have the ability to build up, but for the most of boutique investment banking, probably they need some service provider to build their own agent for the filings in the future.
Yeah, precisely. And something interesting in relation to this is that pretty soon people won't even be building agents anymore because agents are good at building other agents. And so now now you could like automate this entire process. We actually have this thing called Auto Swarm Builder, and what it does is you give it like a description of a particular team you want to build. Let's say you want to build a compliance team for crypto-backed ETFs on the New York Stock Exchange. You just say that one line, and it'll build an entire team of specialized agents just for that problem. And so that way, like people pretty soon will not have to build agents anymore. The agents will build themselves, and it'll be a fully autonomous, fully evolving system.
Yes. If the people are building the agents, there is still another problem. That how do business ensure human oversight while delegating tasks to AI agents, and what safeguards does Swarms offer for critical decisions?
Yes. So I think I would say the first thing is there's a couple of ways of prohibiting agents from making bad decisions.
Bad decision.
One of which is it's called agent as a judge, So, and in an agent as a judge, it's not just like you have the main agent, right? Then you have another agent. This main agent will try to complete your task first, and then the judge agent will then verify this agent's outputs and see if there's anything potentially misleading or potentially dangerous or anything just not in line with the human's objectives. And so that way there's kind of like, instead of you giving feedback to the agent, you can have another agent that knows your goals and your incentives, and this agent will then align the original agents. And that way, like, it's fully autonomous. I think we need to get to a point where autonomous agentic systems can run without human intervention, because that's when they actually become very useful. And that's when we'll see companies start to completely transform. There could be like $100 million company that if they become fully autonomous, they can now become $50 billion company. And they'll be more efficient, they'll spend less money, and they'll also make a lot more money by providing customers more of what they want, which is their product and service, and making that product and service better.
Oh, exactly. So, yes. So, what industries aside from finance or healthcare, can benefit most from multiple agent system, and why? And you can make further discussion about how we can avoid the risks in using those agents.
Yeah, so I would say like I would say manufacturing. I think manufacturing is going to be a massive industry for agents.
Like vehicles?
Vehicles, products, services, anything manufacturing related, I think is going to be a massive industry, because if you could theoretically automate an entire factory with agents, I mean, like the cost is going to be basically next to nothing. If you can lower your costs and produce more products, that's how like good businesses are built. So I think like the adoption right now is still very low, but I think as more and more, manufacturers and organizations that produce physical goods and services, I think if they start to integrate agents much more often, I think we'll see the entire like global GDP increase. And it's still very early, but we actually made a really good post about this the other day on how agents could transform agriculture, manufacturing, and logistics. Industries which are, typically have been very, I would say, conservative technologically, but I think agents can transform those industries very quickly. So, and say like manufacturing, right? If you wanted to build a swarm that automated an entire factory, there's a couple of things that you could do to prevent risks in that particular example. One of which is that if you have, if you have an assembly line and you're supposed to check a product or service for any quality defects, what could happen is you could have kind of the agent as a judge system that I mentioned, where like every single product that comes through the assembly line, this agent can then check the product and see if it's good. And then this agent can like talk to itself with the judge agents and see if that product is, defected, if it has any scratches, or if it's just not, fit for sale. And so the agent as a judge architecture solves a lot of risks associated with agents. Another architecture that is very beneficial for minimizing hallucination and also increasing the quality of the outputs is called a council of judges. And it's basically the same concept as the first one, but instead of having just one agent judge, you now have 5 or 6 or 10 agents. And so these 10 agents will then rate the first agent's outputs based on a series of different indicators, like one of which could be harmfulness. Is this answer harmful? Second could be, is this response useful? And the human can then basically teach these agents, what is useful or what is the goal here? Okay, we want to produce 100 robots today. Then you can say like, okay, we are not reaching this goal, and the agents will start optimizing to fit that objective. So if you give the agents an objective, like very clear objective, they'll almost always stay within the bounds of getting that objective done. And you could also add the opposite of objectives, like what not to do. That's also a very effective prompting strategy as well.
Yes, it seems like there's no need to persuade the entrepreneurs of manufacturing companies to use the agents, because they can just put the agents into their manufacturing process and to use it, for example, like agent as a judge to to monitor their manufacturing process. That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the only thing though, the only like limitation now is not that the technology agents are not reliable enough to be used in factories, but it's simply a matter of educating business owners that agents even exist. They might not even know that agents can do anything other than ChatGPT. Most people, in the world still just know ChatGPT. But unless you're very technologically inclined, then you might know about agents. But one of our biggest limitations for growth is just education. How can we educate as many people as possible on what agents are actually capable of, and even just teaching people that agents exist? Which, unfortunately, there are some people in the world that do not know agents exist. So yeah, I would say the solution for that is education.
Education. So yeah, you just mentioned education. So let me think. Will the widespread use of agents replace many manufacturing jobs? Like people teach themselves and use agents.
I don't think it's going to take away lots of jobs. That's a common I would say rebuttal to any form of like agent or AI technology. But in most cases, every time where AI is deployed, more jobs are created. So people now are going to need to manage these agents. People now are going to need to prompt these agents. When the full agent revolution takes place, there will be more jobs created after than there were before, because so economic law says that the demand for labor, any type of labor, will always be infinite. That means companies around the world will always need more and more labor. It doesn't matter if it's human or it doesn't matter if it's an AI. So there will always be an increasing amount of jobs that humans will be able to have. And so a lot of movies like Terminator and other movies have propagated this belief that AI is bad or AI will take jobs. But that's not the case. AI is going to make the world much more efficient. It's going to enable people to get much better paying jobs. It's going to enable the prices of goods and services around the world, like food, rent, and other goods, to be much, much cheaper. And it's generally just going to be a much better civilization.
Well, that's a quite good answer, because many of my students, they're anxious about, wow, probably in the future my job will be replaced, and whether the knowledge I learned from the universities are necessary for the future AI time jobs. So probably this concern is not necessary, right?
Yeah, the thing is about human nature is that bad ideas or fear spreads much more quickly than good ideas and happy things.
Yes.
Because humans have this innate desire within themselves to preserve themselves. People don't want to die, right? So they have these fears and these anxieties that human evolution has given us to protect us against these potentially bad events in the world. But there's no evidence or research that would suggest that AI is going to, crash the labor markets. Everything is pointing towards hiring more people, more companies. If anything, the world might become so capitalistic that every single human in the world will have a job, and that there will be no jobless people. That's a very likely outcome.
Yeah. So yes, let's. It's quite a good answer. So let's set back from to our problem. So to our questions. So for the developers adopting Swarms, so what is the biggest misconception about building collaborative AI system you have met?
Yeah. So I would say like a big, I would say a pretty big problem is, well, there's different layers of problems. So it depends. If you have one agent, you only have a couple of problems. Like how do I prompt this agent? The prompting is very important. The second of which is knowing what tools to give to the agents, because you can give your agents tools, right? Like, let's say you wanted the agent to fetch, articles from Chaincatcher. How would you do that? So the ability and the knowledge to create and sustain tools is very important. Prompting is very important. I would say the third problem is selecting which models to use. Because models like Anthropic is better for coding. DeepSeek is good for coding as well. OpenAI is good for small things, but like knowing which models are useful is very important, and that's a skill that not many people have. So those are like three problems, and that's just with one agent. So you kind of have to understand like the limitations of agents, and you have to give it good prompts. You have to give it tools that it needs. Then you need to know how to build these tools. And that's just a problem with one agent. For every other agent that you have, these problems are going to be multiplied. So if you have another agent, now you need to create the prompt, you need to set the model, you need to give that agent tools, and that becomes like another like set of the original problems. So when you have multiple agents together, I would say one of the biggest problems is knowing which architecture to use. And so the architecture is basically how do the agents communicate? So there's different types of architectures. One of them is called sequential. And this is where like this agent sends a message to this agent will send a message to this one, and it's like a continuous process. It's like a straight line. And a concurrent swarm is where, let's say you have 10 agents all at the same time. They're all going to run. So all the agents are going to run at the same exact time. And so knowing which of these architectures to use is very important. And also understanding which business problem you're solving, and then mapping that to the swarm architecture you're using is very important, because different business problems will require different swarm architectures. So like if you wanted to do something very analytical, let's say you wanted to analyze a specific coin to see if it's a good investment. You would use either a sequential swarm or a group chat swarm for that problem. If you wanted to analyze like 50 coins all at the same time, you could use the concurrent swarm. If you wanted to create a fully autonomous hedge fund, you would use the hierarchical swarm. And so that's when the hierarchical swarm it kind of models like a company. So you could have a CEO agents, you could have quant agents, and it's basically like a company, and you interact with the boss, and then the boss will communicate with the agents below.
Yes, you just mentioned the Swarms architecture and the Swarms, how Swarms simplify workflows compared to traditional single agent LLM. So because most of our listeners are quite interested how to compare with the multiple agents and the single agent. So can you make further discussion about the advantage of multiple agents?
Yes. So the advantages of multiple agents is more memory. So if you only have one agent, the memory of that agent is very small, and it cannot do much. So that's like one problem that multi-agent collaboration solves. You can get more memory because you have more agents, and they distribute like the load of tokens or of the text that you're giving them. Another problem is that if you have just one agent, you can only do one thing at a time. So that's not like if you want to analyze 50 coins at once, one agent wouldn't be able to do this. But if you have 50 agents for 50 coins or 50 stocks, then you could do that. And it would be much easier and also much faster. It would be very fast. It would only take like maybe 2-3 seconds, depending on how many CPU cores your computer has. So Yeah, those are two issues. A third problem is that if you have just one agent, you're probably going to have to provide feedback to that first agent, which is very ineffective. So when you use ChatGPT, you have to give it feedback. Okay, do this better, do that better. But if you have multiple agents, you can automate this feedback process. And this is an example of the agent judge and council of judges. And so that's kind of like another benefit of having multi-agent systems. And I would say another pretty big benefit of multi-agent systems is that you can actually substantially lower the costs of running agents in general. For example, there was this research paper, Long Agents, where they basically they were analyzing like how ineffective agents were in analyzing big documents, like a big PDF document. And they basically discovered that if you have multiple small DeepSeeks, if you have 3 DeepSeeks, you can beat GPT-4 or Claude, and it'll be like 50 times cheaper. And it's much better than Claude or GPT-4. It's cheaper and it's more accurate. And they could process more tokens than just one of these, bigger models. So that's another benefit of having agents. More memory, do more things, more accurate outputs, and theoretically, it could also be cheaper.
Yeah. I think then every advantage of multiple agents are quite necessary for the industry, and especially for the individual users.
Yeah.
And so we talked so much about the product itself and the benefits of multiple agents. So our next question, our next topic is what sets Swarms apart from the competitors like AutoGen or LangGraph. So is it a focus on enterprise-grade reliability?
Yes, it is. So actually, both of those people copied us because, so they copied us. We were, as I mentioned, the first ever multi-agent framework. So they copied us. AutoGen is a little bit popular, but companies aren't actually using this because they only have one multi-agent structure, which is group chats. The group chat is something that we've had for years now. And it's basically just like a structure where you can have any number of agents and then they can just talk to each other like a group chat. And you can make it random or you can customize how the group chat works. But yeah, that's the only like feature that AutoGen has. So maybe the reason why it was popular is because Microsoft, the researchers originally were at Microsoft. But I would say it's not really for companies. Like companies aren't using AutoGen. It's mostly just a cool toy for researchers to play around with and maybe to benchmark or experiment with. But it's not something that companies are actually using because there is just one structure. Whereas Swarms offers 30 plus structures. So we do have group chats, we have hierarchical, we have sequential, we have parallel, and we have a vast array of other multi-agent structures as well. So that's kind of like the benefits of using Swarms in comparison with AutoGen. LangGraph, I would say, is the thing about LangGraph and LangChain in general is that it's just a very messy framework for developers to use. Like it's very hard to use. I tried using LangChain to integrate LangChain into Swarms because another thing about Swarms is that all these agents, LangChain, LangGraph, AutoGen, they're all integratable into Swarms. I don't know if I would personally recommend that you do that. It's definitely possible. So we were trying to integrate LangChain into Swarms so you could have LangChain agents in a Swarms. But the syntax of LangChain is just so bad. It's so hard to use. And if you look up LangChain on Reddit, you'll see that like everybody hates LangChain. And also Hacker News. Literally everybody hates LangChain because it's hard to use and they're not really doing anything new. They just do RAG and maybe they have some tool usage within their agents, but it's nothing too crazy. And their team is also not really research focused. So they're not like doing new things. They're not researching new agent architectures and coming up with innovative and novel solutions to the problems of agents today. Whereas we are doing research, we're always publishing research papers. We're working on 3 research papers right now, and we're always coming up with novel and unique solutions for the problems that agents have today.
Yes, indeed. The LangChain is a little bit complex. In many countries, there are courses, online courses, to teach people how to use LangChain and RAG. It's not like traditional product management. You don't have to, just coding yourself. You just read the codes. And but right now, if you are AI product manager, you have to code. You have to learn how to use LangChain and RAG yourself. It's a little bit complicated. But yes, luckily we got agents. So multiple agents, a platform like Swarms. I know your GitHub community was thrived. It's very good. And what advice would you give developers building on your platform? In the future?
Yeah, I would say experiment with different models, experiment with different prompts, experiment with different tools, and really understand how to make a perfect agent. It's really hard, but if you get enough practice and you experiment, and if you get to the point where you can build a really, really good agent with a good prompt, a good model, and good tools, then I think you'll be really good at building agents. And so I think it's only a matter of understanding how to build just one really, really good agent and then scaling that up. Then you have to understand what good multi-agent structure you want to use. How do you want to use that? And then you have to understand how to optimize these agentic systems. So there's many different ways on optimizing on the costs. You can have, cheaper models. You can quantize the models. You could have, you can make the prompt smaller. You can make the number of max output tokens smaller. There's just many different optimization techniques that developers can learn to lower the cost of their agents. So I would say it's mostly just try building agents, see what works, see what doesn't work, and just keep iterating.
Yeah, exactly. So I think with agents collaborating autonomously, we need to figure out how to address concerns like data privacy or unintended bias in decision making you just mentioned. So what else do you think we should pay more attention to? You can talk about, for example, like data privacy. Yeah.
So something very interesting about Swarms is that if you run Swarms, the main Swarms framework, it will run entirely on your computer. So I think there's use LangChain or one of these other frameworks, they're collecting a bunch of your data every time you run the framework. So they're not very privacy focused. Another thing is embedding encryption within the agent. So you can have encryption at transit and also encryption at rest. So you can encrypt the inputs, the data that you're sending to the inputs, and you could also encrypt the outputs. And so that way, all the agent runs are secure. And that's actually what we recommend to most of our users. You basically just turn on a setting that encrypts the data coming inside the agent and also out of the agents. And then you could store this encrypted output into your database and then decrypt it when you need it.
Yes, it's quite easy to understand. Yeah, so maybe this time we can talk about the future vision. So as called the level 3 AGI, it's still a long way to go. So how will the multiple agent system pave the way for more autonomous AI teams? You can just talk about what things happened in the United States or other developed countries.
Yeah, absolutely. This is, I think, the fundamental reason as to why we exist. Our ultimate goal is to enable every company in the world to become fully autonomous. And just today, we've marked a big step into making that a reality. Today, we launched our development swarm. It's called DevSwarm. And basically how it works is It's a fully autonomous software development team where you basically give it a prompt, and then you have a CTO agent, and then this CTO agent manages agent developers, and then these agent developers will collaborate and build an application that you want. It could be a simple application, or it could be a theoretical, very complicated application. And the goal of the DevSwarm is to build the first step in building fully autonomous companies. In a fully autonomous company, there's really two important core functions of a company: build a good product and sell that product efficiently. If you have these two types of teams and they're efficient and they're reliable, then you have the foundations for a fully autonomous corporation. After that point, you can have a legal team of agents. You could have accounting agents. Accounting agents are very easy to do, like an accounting team. But I would say the first step into building really, really reliable, fully autonomous companies is a good development department, so that they can build good products. So, that's something that we're working on right now. We actually have our first dedicated research paper on fully autonomous companies coming out pretty soon. So stay in tune for that. I think it's gonna change everything we know about agents, because as we start to scale up the collaboration, right now we are the company with the most amount of agents in direct communication and collaboration. Things like LangGraph or Autogen, there's only really like maybe 5 agents, 6 agents. But in a swarm, you could run hundreds of agents. So we are actively trying to expand the frontier of what's possible with multi-agent collaboration by building some of these larger communicative structures for those autonomous corporations that will be coming.
Yeah, so you just get the start of what is next for Swarms and any upcoming features or partnerships you were excited about. So you can make further talk about this, and probably in the future vision of the AGI.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, DevSwarm just launched today. We're going to be partnering up with lots of folks like the Vercel team. Vercel is one of the largest web hosting platforms in the world. They host OpenAI and Anthropic, and probably also PumpFun. Yeah, I think they also host PumpFun, but they host basically all the world's most innovative web platforms. And so we're partnering up with them to basically bring the DevSwarm's code, all the code that the agents make in DevSwarm, into like an actual application that people can use. So yeah, that's going to be very interesting. We're also going to be shipping lots of updates to our Swarms Rust framework. So the original Swarms framework is written in Python, but the Rust framework is going to be on average 50 to 100 times faster than Python. So the Swarms Rust version is going to be much better for asset managers, hedge funds. If you want to do anything very high frequency, we would almost always recommend the Swarms Rust framework. So that's also very, very exciting. And we also have our Swarm startup program, and we're giving dedicated, innovative, and impactful startups with technical support with our API credits, alongside go-to-market support and marketing support. And as of right now, I think we have over 34 startups in our Swarm startup program. So if anybody's building cool agentic startups or building innovative agentic products, please let us know. We would love to help in any way that we can. And
Yes, you just mentioned there are 34 programs in the Swarm system, right?
So 34 startups.
Yeah, 34 startups. It's quite a few. So it's quite a lot. And if you gave one piece of advice to developers starting their AI journey today, so what would it be, and how could be the next 35 or 36 programs in Swarm?
I would say use Swarms.
Yeah, just use it, right? Just start use it.
If you're starting your AI journey and you want to learn AI and you want to learn how to build really, really good real world useful AI applications, I would say start to learn Swarms. Swarms is by far one of the easiest agent frameworks in the world to learn. It's much simpler than LangChain. It's much simpler than AutoGen. It's literally just a plug and play. All you have to do is you build a prompt, you give the agent the prompt, you choose what model you want. You can input any number of tools that you want in one line of code. It's just very simple. We have literally made it so simple that anybody with basic Python knowledge can learn how to use Swarms. And the Rust version is also pretty simple. So if you know Python, learn the Python version. If you know Rust, learn the Rust version.
Well, it's quite convenient. And thank you, Kye. Thank you for your time. So it's wow, we have been talked for over 45 minutes. Time goes so fast. Yes. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening, and for all the listeners of our channel, please click to follow Kye Gomez on Twitter or Swarms in all social media channels. So probably we can keep in touch in the future. So if you got any questions about our channel, about Kye himself, or about Swarms, just send out a message from the back office. So thank you for your time, and this is this channel, Chaincatcher Unencrypted, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ray. 谢谢。